Dr. Brady, I'll begin with you if I can. Excuse me. Of the funds spent on administrative costs by hospitals, what percentage derives from private insurance carriers, and what percentage stems from federal, state, or local government paperwork, if you know, or you can estimate if you don't know exactly?
I don't know exactly. I would say most of it I would suspect is probably government related, although some of the insurers now, like the Medicaid Advantage plans, it's sort of a hybrid, if you will. So if there were an opportunity to if government could use some standards for the government plans or government insurers to abide by, that would be of us.
Thank you. Mr. Daly and I, first of all, I have to comment that your name Daly is my wife's maiden name.
Oh, really?
So her name was Daly.
Spelled the same way?
Yeah, spelled the same way and everything. And when I first got started in Cincinnati City Council was the first office I ran for, and not too long after we got married. And we sort of kiddingly, because my name's Chabot, and nobody in my family had ever been involved in politics, so if people weren't familiar with the name, we sort of thought kiddingly about maybe going with her last name, running with a political name like Daly rather than Chabot, although we weren't in Chicago.
Right.
And we're not Democrats. So, but other than that, it would have been a great opportunity there. But we appreciate your testimony. Let me ask, in your firm, who handles the reporting and record-keeping requirements, and do you ever have to request assistance from lawyers or other outside consultants to comply with the paperwork requirements?
Yeah, basically what we do is, a good example was 8 to 10 years ago, one of my primary parts of being in the family business and the business itself was I estimated quite a bit and did quite a bit. I literally quit doing that because I took on the responsibility of making sure that we properly met a lot of these regulatory requirements. Since then, I have been able to delegate that to 1 or 2 people in my office, but to the extent that they were all able to handle it. We now keep an attorney on retainer, which we've never done before, in order to review and look at a lot of what we get in there. Thank you.
And is it Dr. Katzen? Is it? Well, that's right.
Whatever.
Ms. Katzen, whatever. Yeah. What would be the drawback to reducing the reporting burdens on small businesses seeking to obtain benefit from the government, if there would be any?
Well, as a generality, there is no downside to reducing burden. What will you be losing? Since some of the parts of the applications are to verify eligibility, and you'd have to have that information if you want to have the agency accountable and say, only those who are eligible. We read each day in the newspaper about scandals that are uncovered where an office has paid money out, good money, good taxpayer money, to people who weren't really eligible. Now, if you eliminated all forms and you just said, I want a student loan, whether I qualify or not, would lose that ability. That's not to say they can't be streamlined more. I am not saying we are perfect by a long shot. But the answer to your question has to be, I think it depends. It depends on what it is you'd be cutting out. And if I may, we talk about the tax, the IRS being the source of the burden. Some of that is, as I said, the 1040s. Some of it is that people can get tax benefits. If you want standard depreciation, it doesn't take a whole lot of form filling out. If you want accelerated depreciation, if you want to be a subchapter S, if you want to be a limited partner, if you want to take advantage of things which Congress in its infinite wisdom has decided is necessary and beneficial, then it takes filling out forms. Now, would you have people simply say, I'm a small business and I want accelerated depreciation, so I'm just going to put down an amount? What is it that you would be reducing in the burden for these people who would be achieving or receiving a benefit?
Thank you. Ms. Greenblatt, first of all, I just had a question. you all were started back in the 1800s, I think you said, and it was in Cincinnati. Is that correct, or did I miss
No, I'm
that?
sorry, NAM, National Association of Manufacturers, was established in Cincinnati. My company was established in 1968.
And you actually were from established in Baltimore then at that time.
Actually, we were established in New York. In the last 10 years, we've been in the state of Maryland in Baltimore City.
Okay, but the National Association of Manufacturers had its origins in Cincinnati then.
Yes.
Back in the 1800s.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I thought something that you had said was particularly interesting. You mentioned that I think the United States has 32%, we're worse in paperwork requirements than other countries around the world. And I think when one considers, I guess we're including in that communist China, People's Republic of China, for example. We're not including in that?
No, it's our 9 biggest trading partners.
Oh, it's our trading partners only, okay.
And these are the people that are ruthless against us out in the real world.
So what countries are we talking?
Canada, Mexico, Japan, China, Germany,
Well, China, so China would be.
UK, South Korea, Taiwan, and France. So, when we're going up against a Chinese or a Taiwanese or a French factory, we have 32% more paperwork shuffling going on than they do.
Yeah, and I mean, that's pretty incredible when you consider that somebody like China is on that list, that our paperwork requirements are that much more burdensome, and I think that shows why we really do need to do a much better job in relieving some of this burden that's now on small businesses, medium businesses, and large businesses as well. If you had to make one change in the Paperwork Reduction Act or to do something about what you see on an everyday basis, what would you do if you were in one of these seats up here and had the ability to make a change in this area?
Well, if there was some sort of rules that said every year for the next 3 years we have to have 10% less paper, 3 years in a row, I still think we can get everything we need accomplished. But there would be a lot less forms to fill out. There'll be a lot less pieces of paper to read. And if we could, the second thing would be if we could make the paperwork in English language as opposed to Washington bureaucratese, it would be easier to digest the data and then respond quickly. A lot of times we get into positions where we read it and we're not exactly sure what we just read, so we have to have 2 or 3 people in a room staring at a phrase. Does that apply to us? Does that not really apply to us? Is that not including us now anymore? And this is an enormous, monumental distraction, and we're looking at things that are not germane to making a good quality product or shipping faster. One other thing I wanted to mention regarding what Dr. Katzen just said about depreciation. I'm a small company, and we have 13 robots, and we have about $1.5 million worth of equipment. I just got a bill this week from my accountant to figure out my depreciation for this year. It was $3,500. Okay? Now that is complete waste, okay, to shuffle the paper to figure out how much my depreciation cost. I mean, that rather than me buying another piece of equipment or me hiring a person to work for 2 months for me, instead I'm paying an accountant to figure out a depreciation schedule. We should have no depreciation schedules. It makes accountants very busy, but it doesn't make me more efficient against China or France or Germany.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Mr. Garbini, relative to ready-mixed concrete plants, do you deal, I know that some of your paperwork is obviously from the federal government, considerable amount of it. How much of it is from the state or local level as well?
Congressman, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that particular question. We might have to come back to you about I would have to say on the environmental side and the safety side, we have the same regulatory requirements that you see with any small business. So I don't know what the proportion would be. Bob, do you have any sense of that? No. We'd have to come back to you.
Okay,
exactly.
all right, that's fine.